Yo, what is up? We're doing an anime review. Wowzers. Yeah, I do music stuff on this channel, so this is weird. But anyways, this was a request from Grey Nugget, the GOAT YouTuber, so I have to do it. Also, it's anime. Well, no, sorry, audio only. I have no idea what to put for visuals. I was thinking of just putting like clips of the show, but that's a lot of effort. So I'm not gonna do it. And also there's spoilers because seriously, most people should have watched this show by now. Like Cyberpunk Edgerunners. It was released in 2022. A long time ago. Yeah, I'm a fake anime fan. I haven't watched it yet. I finished it like a few hours ago. I don't know how it slipped by me. I think it's like the anime sites I use, and they like omit ONAs from their seasonal anime lists. I'm not sure why they do. Maybe I should be more careful about that. I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of relevant ONAs coming out. Anyways, yeah, we have this show. The production completely lived up to the hype. It is insane, man. The animation, just like candy for the eyes. Like it's just constant gun blasts and explosions, colors flying, all of that, and like it's a lot to like digest, but I think it's warranted because we've got this futuristic setting, right? So I think it's like it kind of makes sense that the fights, they don't have a lot more nuance than simply like this idea that I was getting that the stronger weapon usually wins. Like in retrospect, I guess the lack of nuance does become a little obvious when you realize how many of the fights have one dude essentially unscathed, and then like the other dude like just blown to pieces. But you know, in the moment you don't realize any of that, so who really cares? It's just there's so much action. Like this show is so densely packed, like you can't notice any of that lack of nuance. It's completely fine, and I think that's one of the biggest strengths of this show. Actually, it's just no moment is wasted. Like there's only 10 episodes, it's not a long series. They don't have time to waste getting the show up to speed. So the protagonists and their characters, they are established extremely quickly, right? Even though like I'm not sure how necessary it is that they introduce the characters so quickly, because like let's be real, it's really obvious from the start that David, he's the guy, he puts his life on the line because he wants to move forward. That's the only way he knows how to. He's got a poor childhood. He has nothing to lose at this point. He's just going at it. We've heard that archetype before. And then Lucy also, she's like a foil character. She's female. Wowzers. She puts on like this brave facade, and then this brave facade, it kind of like crumbles because things start to go downhill. Once again, that's an archetype we've seen many times before, but let's put that aside for now. Let me just say the soundtrack though, like it sounds excellent, man. I love like all the synths and like the atmosphere they set up. You know, it's already excellent artwork and scenery and all that, but the music just brings everything to the next level. Like, I'm gonna be honest here, you know, I am brain rotted, my attention span is cooked, not good. I usually like, the playback speed for most of the shows, I usually set it a bit higher than it needs to be, but this one, no. It stayed at 1 time speed. I was taking all of it in. You know what? I was considering putting it at like 0.75 speed. Like that's how good the art was. And yeah, like the setting is really cool. You know, like the dystopian setting is not that different. You know, it's a futuristic show. They're usually set in dystopias, but at least for me, right? Since action anime, they generally lean more towards like the fantasy stuff. They've got the cool magic powers and whatever. I think this futuristic style is a kind of a breath of fresh air. It's different from what I usually watch. And then also like the color palette though, that is probably like my favorite part of the art style. Like it made that one reaction image so iconic. And then also like, you know, the like all the effects, like that one where the dude is like cloning himself as he moves around or whatever. I forget what the word they used for it was, but like that, the colors they used in that was such a huge contrast to like the general color palette. It looks so cool. But like anyways, I think I'm off track. I was talking about this setting. You know, I like how from the moment the mom dies, it's really obvious that this is a terrible society for the lower classes. You know, the power also lies more in the mega corporations than the actual government. And yeah, it's not fun for them at all, but they still try and cling on to these dreams. Like there's a glimpse of hope, kind of. You saw David's mom managed to land him in the prestigious school, even though like expectedly he got a lot of backlash for living in a poor family. And that's kind of a critique of today's world, you know. It raises the question of what we fight for, whether the dream that the greater population chases is actually achievable by the masses or only reserved for the few elite, you know. Like, are we actually fighting for something that's realistic, or are we just like wasting our time, our lives away, you know, that idea. You see that in a lot of other books. You know, I read 1984 like a month ago for my English class. It's a common theme, just thinking about what's the future going to be like. But yeah, there's a big difference between our world and the cyberpunk world though, that I think is highlighted in how the poor are like actually disposable, you know, like they're just dying left and right, and it's really not that important that they're even dying. Like, you saw the police, they accidentally killed David's mom. Why did they kill David's mom? Because she was just driving down the same road as some other criminals. That's nasty. Like, she had no reason to die, but she did. Like, not only is there nothing anybody's gonna do about it, but nobody needs to do anything about it, because who cares? Which is a crazy thing to think about. So basically, like, the big point in this society, you know, the society shown in the show is it's not a current reality. Like, it's close enough that we should be worried though. So there's like a bleak, plausible outlook on the future, which is aided greatly by the intense weaponization you saw. They have like weapons everywhere, even in the people. Like, some people, they just like open up their chest and boom, 5 guns pointing right at your face. So like, as I mentioned earlier though, remember, the stronger weapon usually wins. So why is that important? Because the richer buy better weapons, and guess what? Now wealth, it is truly synonymous with power and strength. Like, the rich people actually control the life and death of the poor people, which is definitely not what's happening in our society, and hopefully it will not happen. You know, wealth gaps, they can be fixed in many ways, as we've seen in history, but you know, history doesn't always repeat itself. That's a good adage. History repeats itself, but it's not always true. So anyways, like, let's talk more about the show. You know, like, David winds up, he's a part of a, you know, freelance crew of criminals. They're a group that really like understands that matters need to be taken into their own hands, and they do that in like all their own ways. Like, you know, Maine, he's very prideful. He does things with honor even though he's in a criminal world. There's also Kiwi, she's very pragmatic. She treats trust like a liability. But if there was one thing in all the Or sorry, I was going really there. I don't know what I was saying. You know, like there's a lot of characters that have a lot of different mindsets to how they do things, but like one thing I saw in common in all of them though is that they all gave me like really fatalist vibes. Like none of them really acted in a way that seemed like they had bright hopes for the future, you know. They Yeah, it's like they all knew they were going to die or something, which is quite sad, especially like early on in the show. I think in episode 4 was the moment where I really started to realize like, yo, everything is eventually going to go wrong. Like I can sense it. I'm getting a little tingly feeling. So like, and then I thought about it a little bit. I was like, wait a minute. They're criminals. They're like killing people all the time. And you know what else is happening? People are trying to kill them. It's so obvious that things are gonna go wrong. Like, imagine if they were just killing like 10 people per episode and then they still managed to get a happy ending. Like, how would that work? That would be stupid. That would be silly. So obviously that a happy ending did not happen. They did indeed pretty much all die in pretty like straightforward ways too. Like it just happened one after another. Like every episode, oh, somebody's dying. And like David especially, like he was really leaning into it death. Like he was constantly installing new gear or cyberware or whatever. I forget what they call it. Like he knew he was gonna die, alright? So yeah, it's a very bleak ending. Which yeah, I guess the theme is that they have no chance of being happy in such a dystopia. Either they sacrifice their lives to the corporations, or like we see in the show, they reject the system and like they do find some happiness, but it's definitely not gonna last forever. So yeah, that's a theme. But it's like after I figured that out by the end of the show, like okay, wow, that's the message of the show. It's like I just felt no power from it. All right, so first of all, like one of the ways they like kind of represent this theme is through the romance, right? It was a tragic romance. Things didn't work out in the end, but it felt so forced, you know. Like when I think about it, in a way you could kind of like think of it as that David's final connection to his human self. Like the only thing he had clinging on to in his final moments was his romance, his affection for Lucy. And wow, that's great. That's a really cool idea. But the way they like delivered that sentiment is like Rebecca just kept whining about it, and that just didn't work. You know, Rebecca usually she's just like running right into the gun blast and then just firing guns herself, and then like she's just so reckless. And then she is the one who delivers the romantic ideas the most. It just didn't really click with me. And also, you know, the chemistry between David and Lucy, I just don't think it was there. Like I wasn't feeling it. Like Ray Nugget can confirm. Like when I was watching that show, when Lucy was first introduced, I speculated that she was a predator. Like I thought she was not going to be a good person for David. Like they were not going to kick it off, and then somehow they did. Wow. Okay. And then like also after the introduction, you know, after David found the crew, they started to accept him. He was doing the criminal stuff. Like things looked amazing at that point. Like they were blowing people up. It looked so cool, thanks to the art style, of course. And then they started dying in the insanely gory and violent ways, thanks to the art style, of course. So yeah, there's like insanely high peaks, there's insanely low lows, and like the insanely high peaks, they made me expect the low lows. Like, you know, in like middle school or high school or whatever, they like English class, they tell you got like the introduction, you've got the rising action, You've got, what is it, climax, then the denouement, I think. Like the denouement was just like a straight line, and the climax was like really early in the show. It was just like a big downward spiral. Aha, 9 Inch Nails reference. So like I was really confident in the ending. I think after Pilar's death. So like at that point, like I knew all of the other deaths were going to happen. Although obviously Lucy was going to survive because, you know, the show needs her to go to the moon, like fulfill her dreams, but still feel empty. Wow, how surprising. Another archetype. Is that the word? No, it's like another cliche. They have a lot of cliches. But let's be positive for a moment. You know, in a lot of ways, the archetypes, they were played out, I think, really damn well. You know, they were really strongly followed, the archetypes, but still, remember, this show is like on steroids. Like, for example, I want to try and remember what Akame ga Kill was like. I watched that, I think, 4 years ago now. But I remember though, Akame ga Kill was not sad in the slightest. Like, all of the deaths were way too overplayed. Like, there was so much crying and like mourning and stuff. But you know, why cry over something you knew was going to happen? Alright, like, no, you probably should cry over somebody dying, but not too much, you know. Like, this show kind of nailed it. They found the Goldilocks zone. All right, it was sad, the people dying, but it was not too sad. Like, they moved on quickly enough, so like they hit a sweet spot, this show. So in essence, all right, my overall reaction to this plot is that the main points, they were great feeling wise, like sentimentally. So it was actually like the extra safety nets, you know, the plot put in stuff such as the romance that they didn't really need to be there, and they actually kind of just pushed things over the top. So like there's also the foreshadowing too, you know, like Main's mental state throughout the entire episode leading up to his death. They made it a little too like icky. I don't know, it was like, yeah, something's gonna happen, oh no, it's very obvious now. And you know, also when like Kiwi was meeting up with Faraday, even though like she, right before meeting up, she told herself she really needs to leave the city and get to safety. It was like, yeah, she's gonna die, it's really obvious. And yeah, the storyline, it kind of did overdo things, and the plot from episode 4 and on felt pretty mushy. Like, it was just one death after another, and like everything was kind of like blending together until we finally got to that last episode. So like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it was just like one big goop, in my opinion. So what I had to do to enjoy that though, and I did enjoy it, I managed to enjoy it, because I kind of just like turned my brain off, you know, because if you turn your brain off, you're just focusing on the art, and guess what, the visuals, they are top notch. That's what I'm most impressed by about this show, you know, is that nothing in this show feels overproduced. Like, there are hundreds of noteworthy pieces of art, or like the backgrounds and the music and the effects, you know, like the eyes glitching and the fights and whatever, you know, the sound effects, all of it sounded amazing, man. The budget for this thing was insane. Like, I'm going to compare this to the second season for Jujutsu Kaisen. Like, I had no idea what was going on. It looked cool, but like I couldn't tell what was going on. This show though, this sequencing, like, perfect. It was insane. And I think that's like all I have to say about this one. I rate it a 71 out of 100. Goodbye.